I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. The ego misleads, the numbers do not. Now, inside today's video, I'm going to talk about 3 specific scenarios here that people have dealt with, and just really what we've dealt with new customers coming into Legacy Farmer, where they have come in because deep down, the ego that they've had up to this point around how they think about themselves or their farm operation or their financials and things like that have caused them to make decisions that put them into financial predicaments that ultimately leads them into Legacy Farmer. So let's jump into it. Now, over the years, we've had several customers come in that are in this type of scenario here where they've been led by their ego and not what the numbers are saying. And I will tell you, one of the toughest parts of this is it's typically a family farm operation that's coming in. It's a husband and a wife that are coming in. And I will tell you, one of the most painful parts of this is that one of them is trying to speak this truth to the other, and the other one refuses to listen. Now, from that standpoint here, you can imagine how much friction is caused when you are trying to run a farm operation with your spouse and you guys are not seeing eye to eye in the decisions that you're making, the numbers that you're looking at, what the financials are showing or anything like that. So just purely from a relationship perspective, when you are running your operation based off of your ego and not what the facts are or what the truth is that you find in the numbers, you are causing major damage with your relationship. And guys, I know that's tough to hear, but I'm just being honest with this. I've seen this happen time and time again, having hundreds of family farm operations come to Legacy Farmer over the years. And this can cause a lot of things. And to some people, it leads to either the farm completely going bankrupt, or even worse than that, in my opinion, is that family getting broken apart and mom and dad separating and getting a divorce because of the pain and the emotional toll this type of scenario put on their relationship. So that's the first big point here. Now, the next point is when you are leading with your ego, you are blind to reality. And what I mean by that is we have some people that come into Legacy Farmer, and it tends to be always the people with the biggest balance sheet that have the biggest egos for the most part. Now, I'm not saying this is everybody, but I'm saying there has been people over the years to where they've been humbled when they've come into Legacy Farm, because for the first time in their life, they're getting their numbers structured and organized in a way where we can no longer hide from whatever stories or whatever the ego wants us to believe in our minds. The truth is in the numbers, and the numbers are on the screen. And now for the first time, all of those things are getting exposed, right? All the poor decisions, all the essentially the weaknesses are getting exposed inside of that family operation. And again, to some people, this is a painful time. We all have to go through this. I feel that there's a reason that God puts us through these painful experiences, because in those painful experiences is when we transform, right? It's when we change people inside a Legacy Farmer, and using our software called Farmer Metrics, that's when they change, when we finally have the courage to own up to what the numbers are showing, bury the ego for the first time in our life, and leave who we've been and the type of business owner we've been the past decade or 2 decades or 3 decades or whatever, and step into this new version of us that operates in a place of truth. And we look at the numbers from a place of truth versus what the ego wants us to believe. And like I said, it's a lot of customers that have come into Legacy Farm over the years that have the massive balance sheet that have ultimately been blinded by reality. And this just continues to compound the problems of where they're at financially. And that massive balance sheet is actually a detriment to the operation, because it gives them the ability to kick the can down the road. And even worse than that, if they have a yes banker that tells them yes to every financial decision they want to make or every loan they want to take out because of the equity that they show on their balance sheet, they're set up for even more failure long term. And again, the bank will allow them to kick the can down the road, but that day is coming. That road will end, and you will be forced to face up to the numbers and to the facts and to reality, whether you want to or not. And again, going back to family farm operations that have a big balance sheet, those are the ones that we have typically and historically seen where the biggest problems actually exist. And the reason for this is because they have that yes banker, again, that allows them to make these purchases and make these financial decisions based on the equity on their balance sheet and not what the truth of the numbers are showing. And to speak on that even more, when we have operated in environments like we had from basically 2012 clear up through 2022 with low interest rates, high access to cash, right? It was just easy access to all capital for every business owner in the US, and the banks were greedy and they wanted to loan it out. That is the perfect storm, my friends, to get yourself into a world of trouble. Now, the hard part with this, and why we want to make sure if you have a big balance sheet and you're blessed with all this equity and stuff like that, you want to make sure that you have the most amount of discipline out of any farmer in your county or in your region or anything like that. The reason is because if you are making all these purchases and all these decisions, and we have a rollover in this market economy and rollover in real estate prices, for example, or equipment values. I've talked in several other videos how at one point back in 2014, we had bank examiners come in and forced us to cut equipment values on every customer's balance sheet. We did not have a choice. And so if we ever face that type of decision again, but you've been in this place where you've continued to leverage that balance sheet, continued to leverage that equity, continued to make decisions with your ego and not what the facts and the numbers are actually showing, and having this disciplined approach to the decisions that you're making, you're ultimately going to have to make some really painful decisions going forward. And that may be selling equipment that you need to run your operations, selling a piece of real estate that's been in your family for a long time that you do not want to sell. But because of those decisions you've made, because you've led your life and your business with your ego, you're forced to be in that position now. All right, guys, the last piece that I'm going to talk about here, and again, this kind of goes back to the real problems that actually exist when we lead our life and our business with our ego and not what the facts are showing us, is the destruction of the family within the operation. I already talked about mom and dad getting divorced. The thing is, though, is that if you are the spouse leading your operation and you run it with this massive ego and you think that you are always right, you are going to push every person around you away. Nobody is going to want to be around you because you are never wrong. And one thing I know, or I've at least learned over the years of working with people, the people who think they're never wrong love to put other people down, love to try to put their thumb on people and make them feel like they own them. My granddad did this all the time that I witnessed growing up inside of our family farm operation. And it pushes everybody away around him because you are not open to hearing anybody else's opinion. The only opinion that matters is yours. And it's not really just yours, it's your ego, right? That is the massive, massive problem inside of this equation here. And unless you're willing to own up to that and take down these walls and take down the ego and actually be open to the feedback from maybe your kids or maybe the people that you work directly with, cousins or your brother or whatever on the family farm operation, unless you're willing to take in feedback, you're going to push people away, and that's going to cost you long term. And so I've seen this time and time again, though, where you have this leader inside the operation who leads their life and the business with their ego. And that's what happens is they push the most important people in your life, everything that you are working for and trying to spend your life building for the next generation. You are pushing all those people away because of how you're operating. And you have such a massive ego and you think you're always right that, yeah, they're just not going to want to be around you. And who could blame them? Because the other thing with those type of people as well, they consistently turn out to just be micromanagers and think they need to control and have their hand in everything inside of the operation. Again, you're not building something that the kids are going to want to come back and take over when you run a business that way. And honestly, even if you want to leave it to the next generation, based on the financial decisions that you are not willing to make or the financial facts that you're not willing to face, you're probably not going to have something to pass on to the next generation, even if you want to. And guys, I know that's hard to swallow. I know that's hard to take in, but it's just the reality of where we're living in today. And there are literally thousands of family farm operations across this country that are in that exact position. And they need the wake-up call. And that's what we're trying to provide people inside a Legacy Farmer and with our software Farmer Metrics and stuff. And it's not easy. It's very difficult sometimes to do those things and to put people in that place there. And we do it from a position of love, right? We're not doing it to try to put people down. It's because we want our customers to win. But sometimes we have those people come in where it's hard conversation after hard conversation after hard conversation, because when you look at it and you look at people and based on their age, if they've been operating a certain way and making decisions with their ego for decades, we don't just have one conversation and turn that off. That's going to be a massive internal battle. You're dealing with two different, essentially, identities, right? Two different versions of a person. You're trying to get them to step into this new version, but that old version of them, the one that's tied to their ego, it's going to be holding on as tight as it can to try to pull that person back in. And that's the struggle that you're going to be facing as you're trying to lead that person, is they're in the middle of a transformation and you're trying to help them get there. But there's going to be a battle of these egos internally there, trying to fight for one another. Not an easy place to be, and definitely not an easy place to walk in as well as the person going through the process. But at the end of the day, you have to look in the mirror and you have to decide what type of business owner you want to be. Do you want to be one that continues to ignore the facts, continues to lead with your ego, continues to make excuses, continues to blame everybody else, continues to be the victim in your life? Or do you want to be the one who actually owns up to the reality, faces the facts, faces the hardships, faces all the stuff that you've been hiding for years, and build the business that you know you can successfully pass on to the next generation, right? And something that you can be proud of. And do you want to become the leader that you want to be for your kids and your family and everybody else going forward in your life? That's a tough position to be in, but the reality is everything you have and every problem you have in your life right now is nothing but a simple result of the choices that you've made consistently over time. If you want different results, then it's time to make different choices, plain and simple. So my friends, if you've watched this entire video and really connected with everything that I've said, and you are in a similar position, or you're part of a family operation where you know this is a situation and that you know there's massive financial holes and there's problems and there's challenges there that are just not being talked about there, and you know that it's threatening your guys' ability to build the operation that can be successful for multiple generations into the future, then guys, I invite you to click on the link below this video, schedule a free call with our team, right? And you guys are going to learn more about what we do inside a legacy farmer and more about our software called Farmer Metrics. And ultimately, we're going to learn more about you as well and your family operation. We do not work with everybody. We want to work with the right people that want legitimate, hard-earned results, that have the grit and the perseverance to do what it takes to build the operation that you can be proud of and one that can survive and thrive for multiple generations in the future. So if that's what you want, click the link below, schedule a free call with our team, and we'll see you on the call.